Hello everyone, welcome back to another art time lapse. For this piece is called Every Single Grain of Rice. Have you ever heard of the quote that a single grain of rice can tip the scale and one man can make such a difference between victory and defeat? I heard this quote at some point and I just thought it was just so iconic how every little bit counts. So I decided to do this piece. So I was going to draw a bowl of rice with many grains on it. And then I'm going to do it in a porcelain bowl, like a traditional Chinese porcelain bowl. And I was deciding over the design of the bowl, which you'll see as I paint forward. It's actually something that reminds me a lot of childhood. I remember going to dim sum and seeing these like generic bowls was really normal to me. But nowadays, like when I don't see it as often, and when I do see it, it really reminds me of childhood. Tell me in the comments below if this is the same thing for you guys as well. So here I'm going to do a bowl of rice, and on top I just want it to be a little bit more whimsical. I'm going to have like a little sakura tree that's growing from the top, and also a little house, and having it being a fan art, I'm going to have TOTORO sitting next to a TOTORO tree as well, or sakura tree. Speeding things up, I'm using my traditional Acryla Gouache, just watering it down to mark down where like the rice is going to sit, how the bowl is going to be, and now you can see I'm slowly adding in the details of the bowl. I wanted this to be like kind of like a good almond thing, so that's why the writing on the bowl is supposed to be like positivity or something that good that will come from it, or like celebratory. So I think one of the hardest part for this one is probably doing the details of the bowl, because this bowl is just like overabundance of detail for this bowl that I just remember from childhood. So I knew this was going to be a lot of work. Hopefully I will do it justice, and you will know when you see it or recognize it as something that you have seen maybe at a Chinese restaurant or like from childhood at some point. So here, just like using my gouache, the bowl is composed of most magenta colors, I think, cobalt blue, and then some mint green, and then adding in shadows for the grain of rice. Of course, like with each layer I need to wait for the previous layer to dry before adding in the next layer, or else like things just kind of get blurry and mucky and blend together. But I think the piece is looking okay so far. Speeding it up for you is actually just does take like a very much a long time. The reason that it does look a little bit faster is, one, it's a art time lapse, and two, because I'm actually not drawing like a full like 8 by 10 inch or 9 by 12 inch piece. It's actually a smaller square piece, so that's why it's a little bit faster. So I think there's many ways of looking at this piece. I talked about the grain of rice that can tip the scale, and how every little grain of rice, every little thing kind of works and contributes to a bigger picture. At least that's the idea behind the piece. I wonder for you, what does a grain of rice mean? I know that for some people, they probably think of like another quote. This one is by Gandhi. If you give me rice, I'll eat today. If you teach me how to grow rice, I'll eat every day. That's another common quote that I remember, but there's just so many things that I associate with like a good bowl of rice. I remember learning back in my childhood about how hard work it is for farmers to grow rice, and with our present agriculture and like the just being really unpredictable in terms of the weather, it's even harder. So every grain of rice is so important to savor it and like not waste any food, and that's something that I hope to confide in my children in the future, that they will continue to not waste food and enjoy every bit that nature has to offer. I remember when I was a child, I actually heard this from like maybe like an aunt or something, that you have to finish every grain of rice, or else every single grain of rice that you leave behind will be a blemish in your future husband's face. Which I don't know if I believed it at the time, but I do remember that story, and when I talk about it with some of my friends, they hear something similar as well. Luckily, my husband is a very good looking man, so obviously I did my role in terms of making sure I don't leave any grain of rice behind. Here I just speeding up for you, just showing you like I'm actually spending a lot of time on the bowl rather than grains of rice itself. I don't know if you recall this bowl now, if the color is something that is a giveaway that once you look at it, it's like, I totally know what you mean. But I am looking at the bowl right now from the top angle. It's so different when you're painting sitting down. When I'm sitting down, like the bowl looks fine, but as I'm reviewing this video again from the top angle, I realize that the bowl is actually not symmetrical, and like 3-dimensionally speaking, it's not right in the right angle, so I'm a little disappointed by it. But after all, it is illustration, so I would say I took an artistic liberty and made some adjustments to it. Slowing it down, you can see that I am now drawing the little grains of rice. You can see the tiny sakura tree that's on the top there, along with the little house on top. And then I haven't added Totoro on the top. I think I would probably do that near the end. I was debating if I should just have one Totoro or maybe like a baby white Totoro beside it, because I think it would be very lonely if you were there by yourself. What do you guys think? But if you're looking at this, I do find that this grain, like this rice, this bowl of rice is a little unrealistic. It's like a pyramid shape rice bowl, which is kind of unusual. When I see pictures of rice bowls, usually like a dome shape, it's like a sphere. So don't know if this is like the best way to do it. The reason I have it in more of a peak fashion, like a pyramid, is just because I think visually speaking, it looks a lot better when it's pointed towards one direction, or where you want the audience to have their eyes focus on, and that's towards the top of that bowl of rice with that little house with Totoro on it. So visually, that's the explanation for why it's not like a typical sphere rice bowl on top, like a ball of rice, versus like a pyramid peak shape. So here you can see I'm adding Totoro in. I think he's blending a little bit into the house, which I'm not a big fan of. So I'll have to figure out how to distinguish the character from the environment itself and make it stand out a little bit more. Here, just drawing an outline for each grain of rice. This part is a little bit tedious, so I'm not in love with it, but I know that it's so important for the theme for this piece, about how each grain of rice is helpful and important in its own way. I knew I had to be a little bit careful and making sure that each grain of rice really shines through. Here I'm just skipping a few steps so you can see how it's looking like right now. I'm making sure the grains of rice kind of overlap in the right way. And adding on just some more contrast. So you can see some pieces of the rice being darker than others, so there's more of a dimension. And as I add on more layers of gouache, you can see that definitely the piece is popping a lot more, and the colors are like very pigmented, which I love about the medium itself for gouache. Here I'm just adding outlines for some of the details using my round brush. These hand painted details, I realized like it's actually a lot of work to do with a fine brush. If I was to doing it on this computer, I imagine it'll be a lot easier. I'm also using my jelly roll from Sakura to kind of highlight some of the details. I think it will just look so much better that way. Also, this is so very tedious work. I really do enjoy it. I find it very therapeutic. And here is the finished piece. It's a Studio Ghibli inspired fan art, Every Grain of Rice. Thank you so much for joining me on this art time lapse, and I hope you enjoy following me on this artist journey as I kind of paint through my childhood and talk about my thought process. Here is the tiny Totoro that's on top, that's just sitting in front of a house, gazing out into the wilderness on this like traditional Chinese porcelain rice bowl. Just to skip forward a little bit, I want to show you I did end up painting a second character beside Totoro with the tiny white Totoro at the end, because I thought it's just so sad that he's lonely by himself. I think it would be nice to have a partner. So here's the finished piece. That's it for now. I hope you guys stay safe and stay creative, everyone. Bye for now.